Guys, I've been thinking a lot about Lightlark.
As you should.
Me too.
Boo. No. Bad Kristen.
Shut up, B. We want her to read the second one. Shut up.
I say I'm in the middle. I've read like 10 pages of Nightbane. I don't fucking know.
Honestly, that feels like it's close enough to the middle for you to be complaining about the middle. Of the
Oh,
book.
yeah.
It's already really difficult.
You showed a screenshot of the map, and I want to throw something against the wall, or just, like, I don't know, but, like, I hate lazy fucking maps, and I hate lazy fucking world building.
It's so bad. Like, I'll give this to her. The writing is already a little bit better. It's been 10 pages. Okay, I'm well aware.
Sadly, she wrote herself into a corner by calling her character Isla Crown, and by having, like, the thing called a star stick.
And by having a giant egg as the magical curse.
Yeah, so...
And by having Isla fuck her uncle, or her cousin.
We're not
it's not
sure.
really clear. Yeah, we're not sure.
Yeah, I think it might be uncle. I've realized that we kind of misspoke in our episode about Lightlark, that he might have been her cousin. We're still not...
Make it
we're
both.
still not 100% sure.
Regardless, he's related enough to make it weird.
Yeah. Exactly. The line is
Honestly,
blurry.
I feel like an uncle is worse than a cousin.
Uncle is worse than a cousin. Hands fucking
1000%
down.
worse.
Uncle is worse than a cousin.
But yeah, so if you want to stick around past this episode, one of our Christmas episodes will be us dissecting the second book in Lightlark series.
You know that's got to be our New Year episode, Kristen's birthday episode.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Only
well,
for you.
You're gonna do the
and
Knight's
only
Bane
for your
recap.
Birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people get parties or cake.
I don't know why you're complaining, B. I cannot fucking wait to hear about this.
I
book.
want Kristen to suffer.
I cannot wait. I re-listened to our Lightlark episode whenever Kristen was talking about Knight's Bane in the chat a couple of weeks ago. I was listening to it, laughing fucking hysterically the whole time. So I don't know what you're talking about, but I can't wait. It was a great time. Great time for me. It was a great time for me.
I had to have a fidget toy. I was so angry. I had to have, like, a stress ball fidget toy. I was so angry the whole time.
We'll do some kind of enrichment. I'll make you a worksheet.
I'm gonna need, like, a sensory bin. And you'll just hear me scrubbing my feet through this, or my fingers through the sand.
Yeah. We'll do something so that, like, you can enrich yourself.
It can't be knitting, because I'll just get too angry. You'll just hear clack, 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 clack.
But, yeah. So I guess for my birthday, I'm going to get tortured, which will be right after Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, you did this to yourself, so I'm sorry.
I mean,
but...
reminder that I tried to read Lightlark for the podcast, and I read one chapter, and I was like, I am not going through this.
Same. You were trying to read it, and I was like, okay, I'll do this to support Kristen so that she's not alone. And I was like, oh my god, fuck this.
After that episode, the episode came out, I picked it up and started reading it that night, and I was like, no. And so I just went and looked at memes on Tumblr about it.
What really got me was all the drama. Like, I saw the drama, and I was like, I have to know what the drama's about. Yeah, we have a channel in me and Caitlin's Discord that's just about...
It says you're not escaping Lightlark.
Yeah, and it's just Lightlark memes. But yeah, so stick around for that, I guess. The torture will commence in 2024.
I can't wait!
Hi, and welcome to my podcast, Knows What You Read in the Dark, a book club podcast made by chaotic people for chaotic people. I'm Kristen.
I'm B.
I'm Lady.
And I'm Caitlin.
And we are four friends here to tell you what's what about the books we read and loved this month, or the books we hated this month. So, Lady, I guess you're up first. Oh, B's up first. I know that we literally just did names, but I already forgot who talked first. So, yes, B, you are first.
It's okay, we're married.
It's true. We were chatting on the group Discord about our weird energy today, and just, yeah. So this is like my script as I was writing this out. So, do I have major misophonia issues and kids under 5 that inadvertently make me cringe and flinch through mealtimes? Yes. Is one kiddo going through a major meltdown phase over every setback or boundary and sobbing and shrieking, wailing at least once every hour at home? Also, yes. Or check on your friends that have, young kids, because,
You're going through it.
Yeah, we're going.
They're not doing okay. They're doing bad.
Do I have literally over 1,000 student assignments to grade with no I calculated it today. And I have 1,080 student assignments to grade with never enough planning time to catch up, and it gnaws at me? Yes. Have I been so unbelievably bogged down this month again that this book, the one I just finished last night, is the only book I finished in a month? Also, yes.
Oh no.
Insert now a PSA to go check on your teacher friends because good gods, y'all, it is bleak. Side note, do not fucking talk to me about toner, copiers, or retake policy.
Having you as a friend made me realize that when I was a teenager whining about how long it took for teachers to, like, grade assignments, I was just being a little bitch.
Oh yeah, same.
To be fair, my classes were 10 students in each class, so, like, not that much, but, like, you know.
Still.
Oh no, so and that's what I was talking to teacher colleagues, and like the biggest thing in all of these conversations about education is class size. And like I have classes of 30 kids.
That's awful.
That I see for 90 minutes every other day. And even if I didn't teach anything direct instruction wise, even if I just went around and talked to each kid, it's 3 minutes per kid to get to know them, to ask about how they're doing like in that moment, and to give direct feedback, like personalized feedback on whatever assignment they're working on. Only 3 minutes. And that's if I do nothing else for the whole period. You know, like there's just, you can't do that. And like, let alone like, imagine if you have 5 classes of 30 kids, right? If you have 150 kids and you have the same class and they all have essays due at the same time, yeah, you're not getting that back.
Nope.
So anyways, here I am sitting on my couch 1 hour before we record, trying to ad-lib a draft of my scripted notes for tonight. I feel off kilter, a little bit outside the Venn diagram, the outlier to the data that gets looked over. Am I also behind writing my notes for tonight because my book ended in such a cliffhanger that I had to start reading the next book in the series fucking immediately? God damn it, yes.
It is torturous. Agreed.
So, I went on Storygraph earlier today to get the, like, series names for the books that we did in the game in the last episode. And I saw that you were already reading the second book, and I was like, oh god, I cannot wait.
It's a torturous cliffhanger for sure.
Oh yeah, so anyway. So audience, by now, you know we've been rereading the first author we brought to the podcast, and for me, that author is Clare Sager. Now, fans of Miss Sager might be able to guess which book I'm talking about when I mentioned that it ended in a massive cliffhanger. Or maybe not. Claire, I can say that now parasocially, tends to catch our fingers in the hinge of our metaphorical mousetrap as we reach for the happy ending. Okay, dear listeners, this month I read Clare Sager's A Kiss of Iron. Now, I need to mention that after we released our first podcast and tagged Clare Sager, she replied to us. And we didn't even have 10 listeners. I don't even think we had 5 or 2.
It was just us.
Yeah, it was just us.
And
the
apparently
people that
Clare
we had
Sager
forced to listen to this podcast.
And she gave us she gave us the biggest serotonin boost while we figured out the basic things about starting up a podcast. I feel like this should be a moment for us to reflect, but for me, that was like the coolest thing that could have happened with our podcast.
Yes.
I don't know.
Oh, absolutely, for sure.
Anyway, Clare Sager responded on Instagram and even sent us an arc for A Kiss of Iron last year. Kristen read it right away. I only read it just now. But it was super duper cool. And y'all go follow Claire and read her books. And thank you at Clare Sager. You definitely helped a fledgling podcast. And no matter our weird vibes tonight, it feels totally right to bring another one of your books to our podcast for this anniversary episode.
I want to say that I'm actually planning on finishing the Beneath Black Sails series, or at least like continuing it in December, because I need, for my 23 books for 2023, I need a Enemy to Lovers book, and I don't want to read the one I have, so I will probably be reading that.
Oh yeah.
Do it.
Yes, I have it on my Kindle to take with me on vacation when we go the second week of December, because that's the exact same reason. It is, I think I have it down for like a book that was a second chance, or a book that I missed and didn't read whenever we were reading it in the book club. So I have it on my Kindle to read in December as well.
Those are great. Like that series, and I'll talk about the difference. You'll hear me it's the same universe, but that series is a lighter series than like this one.
Oh, fun.
So now to the book at hand. I've never done this for a book before, but I'm going to share the dedication and the author's note before I even really talk about the plot. So first, the dedication page for the book says this. It says, quote, "For the women who are, behind their smiles, fucking furious," end quote.
Hell yeah.
Mood.
So, to clarify, the Beneath Black Sails series, right, in book, which I brought last year, is connected to this series. The main female character in this book is sister to the female main character in Beneath Black Sails, Avis, or Vice. Vice's story, while it touches on the patriarchy still present in this alternative world / England, Vice is mostly in the other book series. Vice is mostly in the Caribbean and has a more she in general has more egalitarian circumstances for much of her story. Kat, or Catherine, the sister and main female character in this series, lives in Albion, which is the name for the alternative England, and she's just totally stuck in this bullshit patriarchal system. So with that, just to clarify, this was a tough read for big parts of it, and I would definitely recommend checking, it even says in the author, like, before you read, check the content warnings. Clare Sager also mentions, like, if you see the content warnings and are unsure, like, you can check them out on her website, or even have a friend check them out and kind of, like, proofread some of those scenes, because there's definitely some heavy themes that come up in this one. Anyway, so I actually want to read the author's note to this book, because it's a heavier series. So, by the way, this is, like, probably mostly spoilery from here on out. So if you want to read this, maybe skip this for now. Anyway, so the author note says, "Welcome to Tenebris or Luminous," and that's actually referring to, like, moving on to the book 2. Anyway, so Claire writes in her author's note, she says, "I hope you enjoyed reading this first part of Kat and Bastion's story as much as I did writing it. It was something of a roller coaster, I'll admit. I always outline my books before writing them, but these two, they didn't entirely follow the plan. For one thing, they had a lot more steamy times than I'd planned, although they don't fuck in this book, but anyway."
Yeah, they don't. It's very sad.
She says, "But I love the adventure they took me on." And so this, you can get a hint at some of the things that come up in this book based on what I'm about to read. She goes, "And I want to reassure you, despite where we've left these two, I'm an optimist at heart, and I always promise a happily ever after for my main characters. They just might need to go through a few challenges first. Insert evil laughter here." So you can know, like, like, as Caitlin pointed out, I already started the second book, because god damn it. All right, she continues. She says, "In these author notes, I generally speak a bit about some of my inspiration and research, as well as how a story relates to my other books. Honestly, I started writing this one a few times and kept coming back to this. I never intended for this to be a book or series about female rage. But here we are in 2022, it's December as I write this, and asterisk, gestures at everything. I started off listing some specific examples here, but you know what? There are too many. In short, men in power are still fucking us over. Hells, so are men out of power. We've all seen the documentaries and news reports about abusive high-profile men who still somehow land that next big role. We've seen the women who come forward and aren't believed, the friends with partners who are not right. We all know or have been the woman in a crowd who was touched, the woman who was followed, a man who just wouldn't leave alone. Either firsthand or through a friend, we've all known that guy who got nasty when he was rejected. It's fucking exhausting and terrifying and rage-inducing. When I wrote my previous series, Beneath Black Sails, I was so fucking exhausted from it all. I wanted to write something lighter that didn't include that BS, and it was a welcome break, but I couldn't keep on like that. Not when the world was sending me so many reminders. So for you all, great winter read. Beneath Black Sails is a lot later. You were saying that and I was like, just wait till I get to the author note.
Yay.
So, with A Kiss of Iron, I sank into it. Apparently, I sank deep, and I appreciate you joining me on this dive. But don't worry, there's plenty more female rage to keep us going for the rest of the trilogy. Kat is still deep in that rage and the fear. Ahead of giving this book to my beta readers, I was expecting someone to ask why she doesn't tell someone about Cavendish is the name of this, like, spy master, and it's part of the extortion and abuse I'll talk about later. Why she doesn't talk about him, or her husband, or her uncle. These are all abusive men in her life. No one did. Because they all understood. And now I sit and think about that, and it makes me a bit tearful. Because it means they knew, and you probably do too. It isn't safe for Kat to speak up. She's trapped in a dangerous situation and locked in her own fear. And although she starts to find her rage by the end, she's still bound up in a lot of trauma and fear, and she isn't safe yet. And I want to say to you, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to not speak up because you are afraid or because you're unsafe. You are not to blame. You never were. There are other things I could say, but they're in the book or they're to come in Kat's story. I'm better at speaking through made-up people, and that's why I write fiction. And so she kind of does ... Well, there's after the ellipsis, she says, there's no smooth way to segue out of such a heavy topic, and there shouldn't be. This is the point I'd normally talk about my other books and how they relate to this one, but honestly, that doesn't feel right after all of this. All I'll say is that all my stories are linked in some way with characters who cross over between series.
I love her so much.
Oh, I do too.
She's so real.
Yes.
So then she goes, I love history and mythology, so it's always a treat fleshing out a new part of this. She calls it the Saberverse. I'll talk about that later. Most country place names are based on old names for those places, usually in one of their native languages, which is something that I've loved about the series and look at the universe so far, because it's good world building. Anyway, she says Albion is a fairly well-known old name for England and Wales. She says Kestel Caradoc, which is one of the groups that comes up in the book, is my own invention, meaning castles Caradoc, Caradoc being a part legendary, part historical figure in Welsh folklore. She says, as for Cat and Bastion, who are the leads in this book series, I don't want to spill too much in here, but the experience of writing Cat was a different one for me. For one thing, a lot of my heroines are warriors of some sort. Ariadne in My Stolen Threadwitch Bride was my first foray into writing a woman who had no skill or training with weapons, and I found that a fun challenge. But Kat, she's a fighter of a different kind. Then, and this is, I know I kind of dragged it out, but I wanted to read this part at the end. Then, as I wrote her, all these parentheses started coming out. I don't think I've used a single pair of brackets in any of my published books, and yet they litter A Kiss of Iron. As I was revising the story and trying to decide whether they should stay or go, I realized why they'd come through in Kat's voice. Kat lives her life in parentheses, little gaps between what she can say out loud. Anyway,
Wow.
there's a little bit more to the thing, but I'll stop there for now, because it kind of...
That's so good.
Yes.
So anyway, this is a different tone than Beneath Black Sails. I remember in our first episode, I said something about Beneath Black Sails feeling like Pirates with therapy because of the way that Claire writes her characters being able to process stuff like adults should. And as I reflect on some of the stuff that still felt unsettled during reading and after reading this book, it's because Kat doesn't have the freedom to process stuff like Vice did, and it really shows up in this story. Which just goes to show you the difference between, as mentioned in the author's notes, where Kat is and what Kat can or cannot do versus what you encounter in the other series. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. Kat is a low aristocrat in Albion. To clarify again, just if you haven't read the series or to kind of think about this, this alternative world is called the Saberverse. We have saber cats instead of horses, which awesome choice.
Hell fucking yes. That's the coolest shit I've ever heard in my life.
It was awesome.
And so the saber cats come up in this, and Kat has Kat is really good with saber cats.
Saber cat.
Yep. So Fae still exist and walk among humans, kinda. Elizabeth the First in this alternative kind of world, Elizabeth the First of England, but Albion, married or at least fucked a Fae and infused that Fae magic into her bloodline. Which is
nice.
Which is part of the right to rule that's kind of built into the bloodline. Anyway, so because of that circumstance where Elizabeth I is not does not have an heir when she dies, she continues her bloodline. So instead of it branching off to James, sorry for the history lesson, not sorry. So instead of it branching off to James VI of Scotland, who in real history united the thrones of Scotland and England to become James I of what you know as for the United Kingdom, the same James that commissions the translation of the Christian Bible into English. Yeah, that one. Anyway, Elizabeth's line instead continues, and the current monarch of Albion is Elizabeth V. There are still druids. Colonization in the Western Hemisphere didn't happen, as we see in Beneath Black Sails. And there's just trade in those spaces instead of genocide and enslavement that were integral to the settler colonial system set up by the Europeans. And for all that bullshit Clare Sager wrote out of this alternative reality, there is still the fucking patriarchy running Albion.
Boo, we hate to see it.
Right? And here we find Cat, Lady Catherine, the older of the Ferrers sisters, who grew up groomed for submissive obedience, dominated by abusive men, and sold into a loveless marriage to a bad man 10 years her senior.
Ew.
We learn the details of this in the story, but we meet Cat as she literally scrapes by to keep the estate running with the most skeleton of a kind of help, like servants and help. It's literally just 2 other people and her, while her husband gambles away their money and neglects his marriage vows in all the bad ways.
Of course.
We come upon Cat as she literally commits highway robbery to steal the money that pays the bills.
Yeah. God forbid women do anything.
Exactly. So the first night she's tracking a carriage, but in the efforts to do that, she hears this noise and it's a fox wailing nearby. And I don't know about you, but there's actually a fox in my neighborhood, and like that
it's
shit
terrifying.
is like, awful to hear.
It's horrifying.
Yeah. But so anyway, so this fox is like screaming, and she's like, that's gonna like alert the carriage, and I can't have that. So she goes and she finds that there's this fox caught in a snare. And so before it gives her position away, she works to get it free. And that's a fox that seems to be more than a fox. And by the end of this interaction, because there's like this moment between them, Cat has missed the rich carriage. So far, in book 1 at least, this fox is a red herring, even though it's mentioned later in the book. But yeah. I'm going to keep reading the series, and I partly want to see if that more than a fox character comes up again. By the way, just in general, and I think part of it is because of it's Cat, like, as a character, but there's several of these loose ends that my big brain wants tied up by the time the series is over, so I'm just saying.
Trust the process.
Anyway, yep. I'm, like, still on chapter 1. Anyway, Cat returns, and her bad luck continues when a bailiff shows up at the estate ready to evict her because of her husband's debts that are unpaid. Cat never got the notice because her husband is a total shit and hasn't been home in years, let alone to send along the notice. So the bailiff shows up and she's like at the door, like completely flabbergasted by this. The bailiff takes pity on her and offers her a payment plan, and so she takes it and back to highway robbery on the regular. Oh, and we find out in this first chapter and sequence in general that Cat has earned a reputation as this highway robber. So she has this nickname, the Wicked Lady, while committing this crime streak, and apparently she's yet to be caught.
Nice.
Excellent. I support women's
It
wrongs.
was like, part of it is that I was in a reading slump because I haven't been able to read anything really, and part of it was also like Kat's narration. I was like skeptical of this. I don't know, it felt off to me because it was like, how did this happen when you're like clearly in this kind of like situation or this state? But it's kind of more of like, you do what you got to do and you just kind of keep your head down and take one step in front of the other, and the solution to getting money is highway robbery, so she doesn't get, she does it and she doesn't get caught. Anyway, on this next night, she sticks up a lone rider on a saber cat, and who she realizes after the fact of robbing them that it's someone who's fey. She takes his money and this golden bauble, which when she does, he threatens to like hurt her mightily if she does take it. But she's desperate, she takes it anyway, realizes he's a pretty fey man, and in this like brush by moment that they have, and then she escapes like hell on her saber cat, and he like pursues her, but she manages to like hide. Anyway, from that stick up, she gets enough gold to make the first payment to the bailiff, and then in the very same morning where she's like, after that she's done this, she's like, a messenger shows up and she's summoned to court, like royal court at London. And by the way, London in this book series is spelled Lunden. Anyway, most of the book takes place at court. Cat is summoned to join Elizabeth V's retinue as a lady-in-waiting. Elizabeth, as we know from Beneath Black Sails, is rumored to not have much magic, which is confirmed in this book, although it changes midway through, which is a spoil thing. Anyway, but so before we find that out, she's hosting a bunch of fae and fae-touched or fae-blessed suitors to try and fuck some magic back into the bloodline. So anyway, she needs more ladies-in-waiting because there's a whole bunch of more folks at court. Shortly after showing up and being presented, and like she goes in at court and she's wearing like kind of threadbare, like 10 years out of fashion clothes, and the queen like roasts her for it. But anyway, so she has this like really embarrassing introduction at court, and shortly after showing up, Cat is brought before the spymaster / right hand of the queen named Cavendish, And he recruits her, kind of extorts her into spying on someone from one of the Fae retinues. Like, the extortion is that he knows that she doesn't have any money to keep the estate. And so he's like, you will do this spying and I will pay you a stipend because I know you need the money.
He sucks.
It really does. And she's just kind of like, well, fuck. Because she's far enough away from home and also, like, near court. She can't do the highway robbery anymore. Anyway, in this world, there's a couple of Fae courts. There's something going on in alternative Wales, that Castle Caradoc thing, but we don't really know about it, and neither do any of the other Fae. Like, Bastian, the main character, doesn't really know about it either. It's kind of like, shrug. But the thing you need to pay attention to is that there's 2 courts based in alternative Scotland. They occupy the same place in terms of, like, the main ruling city, but they rule at different parts of day and night. So that was the Tenebris. Tenebris is the name of the city when it's dusk or nighttime, and Luminous. So Tenebris is Latin for shadows.
Yeah.
And then Luminous is the name of the city when it's daylight, and Luminous is from the Latin word for light, one of them. Anyway, and so they occupy the same space, and basically there's 2 courts, the Dusk Court and the Dawn Court. So the Dusk Court rules from dusk until daybreak with a night queen, and then the Dawn Court rules from dawn until the sun sets with a day king. They rule in the same city, and it's weird, and at least for this book, all you need to know is that these 2 courts are competitive with each other, each have potential suitors vying for the queen's hand, and they really just don't like each other. There's a fair amount of bad actions and sabotage that takes place, and it's just an added deception and intrigue. Anyway, the spymaster Cavendish wants Kat to spy on and compromise the right-hand man for the Dusk Court named Bastian Marwood. It's implied from the get-go that she should seduce him and not mention that she's still married, and instead imply that she's widowed and use her appealing looks, like her red hair, to get him to spill secrets and reveal confidential Dusk Court stuff.
There's no way that this could go wrong.
Right? Guess what? Guess who Bastian is? Just guess.
The guy from the robbery.
Uh-huh.
Yay.
Right? That's right. He's the same Fae that Kat robbed on the highway before coming to court. And despite their first meeting, he recognized her immediately at court at once when they're introduced by scent alone.
Of course.
Well, because he's Fae. So this is your couple. Their endgame. We hope they end up together. Damn it.
They will. Manifesting.
Okay. I'll find out. So there's a ton of court intrigue. At one point I saw a review that was saying that this was like for fans of like Bridgerton and maybe some other like series, and so there is like a lot of court stuff going on. I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know.
I would not compare this to Bridgerton at all. Like, I would say, like, I hate to be that person, but if you like the Cruel Prince and stuff, you would like this
I was
book
gonna say, this is aging me just a little bit, but The Tudors, the TV show on HBO.
There's definitely a ton of court intrigue. There's also a ton of bullshit patriarchy that traps Kat and makes her relive awful abuse and trauma. I can't tell if I didn't like these parts so much because it was difficult content or if it was kind of this intentional limitation of Kat's awareness, because she's completely not able to process and unpack her trauma for most of the book, and she's got a lot of it. She's the oldest sister. Her uncle is a sadist maniac. Spoiler, like we know that Kat like loves saber cats, and like we find out that basically like when she was young, he kills one of her saber, like he kills her first saber cat.
To read for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, and some of the other stuff that happens to that tells you that he's a complete sadist. She's stuck in this awful marriage. It was arranged. She had no choice in it. She was groomed by her father, especially, and like there's abuse implied to it, that she must be like, she has this mantra from her childhood that basically says like obedient and silent and yeah, like she like you find out later like Bastian notices that like she picks at her cuticles. She's like always like constantly like clenching her hands or like clasping them together. Anyway, she's considered a failure for not producing an heir, even though part of it you find out that basically like her husband was like in the dark fumbling around and drunk, and she manages to like have him not actually have sex with her, but still like come, and so like there's no chance.
Hey.
Anyway, I'm not gonna. Moving on. She's left helpless to care for the estate with an absent husband. She's stuck in this extortion scheme with the spy master. She's also stuck throughout the book fighting against the conditioning from her childhood as this chaste, silent, and obedient woman, while Bastian, the main male character, tries to get her to choose her own freedom and make her life her own. And both of them are like talking at each other and like missing connections, and that becomes really apparent actually in the beginning of the next book about some of the things that they're hiding from each other. And at the end of the first book, like they're definitely like talking to each other, but also hiding stuff from each other, and it's just not real communication. Unlike what you see with eventually with the two main characters in the Beneath Black Sails series. Anyway, there's like as you're reading this, it's too real that the conditioning holds her back the whole book. And at first I wanted to just like shake Kat and tell her to figure it out or notice how stuck she is. But having read Clare Sager's author's note and having read through the character arcs and struggles for Vice and Nye in the other series, who, by the way, cameo in this book, it seems like Kat is intentionally written this way. My hope is that she'll continue to develop and work through this, just like Vice did in the other series. By the way, I know I had mentioned it in the first time, like, one of the characters from the Beneath Black Sails is this, like, mom friend named Perry. And shout out, Perry shows up and is a minor character in this book. So I was
Perry.
like, oh, Perry, my
I was
beloved.
so excited when she popped up. I was like, heck yeah.
Well, because especially, like, she's one of the people that helps Kat start to, like, break out of the kind of conditioning, because Perry, mom friend for the win. Anyway, without spoiling too much, Kat does manage to figure out too late one of, if not the biggest court deception. Big time spoiler if you don't want to know. It leads to a giant cliffhanger. Spoiler alert again, and put on your earmuffs. By the end of the book, Kat takes poison that she was basically getting blackmailed to give to Bastian, and it's not resolved by the end of the book or by the epilogue. I don't know, Kristen.
It is not
confirm.
resolved. And like whenever I finished this book, the second one was not available, and I have not had a chance to start the second one. But I feel like if I had been in your shoes and like I had just finished this one, I would have done the same thing, and I would have immediately went to it, because I've had time to like stop stewing over how mean the ending was. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, it really, like, when I got done, I was like, this is where we're leaving off, right here. It's torturous.
You would do me like that, Claire?
Like, she's dying from the point, like literally in the narrative, she's like reacting physically, viscerally. Yeah. She's dying to this poison. And like Bastian is holding her saying like, stay with me. And it just like fades to black and you're like, what the fuck?
Like, Claire, I thought we were friends.
Claire, this is how you do me.
So, like, I'm less than, like, 10% into the next book, which is called A Touch of Poison. And it, like, just came out this fall. So, yeah, Kristen has been sitting with this for a while. Anyway, I started it immediately just so I could find out what happens with Kat. And as I predicted in the first book, the betrayals and deceptions have already continued in book 2. Although by 10% you find out a little bit of what, like, Kat survives.
Always.
With some bullshit that has to happen. But, like, true to, like, Clare Sager, like, the stipulation of Kat surviving involves, like, is going to force proximity to Bastian despite the deceptions and betrayals that they've had with each other. And, like, she's gonna have to rely on him for her survival in this like very specific magic circumstance. But so again, like, just knowing Clare Sager, like, that forced proximity, like, the babies are gonna have to unpack their trauma. Like,
they can do it. I believe in them. I believe in Kat and Bastian.
Exactly. Come on. I felt happy to catch the gotcha twists in the book, which was encouraging because I've been in a reading slump. I want all the loose ends to get tied up, because there's a lot. I have a lot of what I think are good predictions about some of the big problems leading into the rest of the series, and about the kind of like big whodunit for the first book's deception, like who's the big kind of like puppet master. And as I've said, I've already started book 2, and book 3 comes out in early 2024, so like perfect timing. But like, I don't know, to close.
Damn, she's cranking them out.
Yeah, well, and these are in addition
writing,
to other
like, in
books and other series.
like,
Like she's got another one. Like
she's churning them out.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Goals.
Oh yeah. But anyway, to close, fuck the patriarchy.
Preach
Hell
it.
yeah.
I don't know if Kristen. Yeah, Kristen, because you read this too, and I don't know. Like, I know I was talking fast and trying to get all my points in because it's already been like 40 minutes. But what were your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, like, wholeheartedly. Like, there was definitely parts of it that were challenging. Like, whenever Kat is, because, and B didn't really mention this, but, Kat, like, kind of gets, I don't want to say she gets made fun of, but there is, like, a lot of stuff in regards to, like, weight, and...
Like, she's definitely a curvier character, which is like, Bastion loves it. And like when you first get there, there's like this great like tailor who like puts together her like outfits and such, who like tailors things to show off her shape and like flaunt it. And there's some like fucking dudes in this patriarchy court that
try to shame her,
like say things to her to make her like that try to shame her. And like, true to Bastion being the like I'll be the villain for you kind of dude, he like stands up for her, and he's Fae, like he is full-blooded Fae, has his own powers and stuff, and like is the right hand of the Night Queen for a reason, and like stands up for her, and including later on like goes and like beats up the dude, especially in the one scene that I'm thinking of, like beats the shit out of guys who like try and knock Kat down.
It's so hot. It's like, yes, stick up for your girl, okay? Like,
there were so many, and like part of it is like this is court and it's intrigue, and there were so many times like Kat's getting extorted by to try and like spy on Bastion, and yet it's become like her feelings are real, and I'm like, just talk to him and have him kill everyone, okay?
He will do it for you, okay?
And so it's interesting, like you're in court and there's deception and there's intrigue, and you're trying to figure out like what's the real deception and what's not, and like who's who, and like there's definitely a big fucking turn that Kat figures out, and I had like figured it out earlier as well, but like that's fine. But like, I don't know, it's good, but there's definitely hard, heavy topics. And so you mentioned like the like weight and the fat shaming and stuff, and for me, there's part of it is also like one of the way like Kat self-medicates with alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so for me that was tough, because there are definitely moments where she's just like literally trying to drink away the pain.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
baby girl,
yeah, there's definitely like, like I said, it's like you said, and I think Claire makes a big point, like definitely check warnings before you hop into this, because like if you read Beneath Black Sails and like you are expecting it to be similar, they are not. They may be in the same universe, but they could not be more different. And so, yeah. But I will say, and like this is coming from people who high praise the books, but like A Kiss of Iron definitely brought me back to The Cruel Prince, and like the way that it works with like court dynamics. And I wouldn't say like they relate to like Jude and Carden in a way, because they also could not be more different, but like just the way that the court moves around and like the deception and all that stuff, like it really made me think of that series a lot. And I'd be curious how like they can, if they stay similar like as far as that goes as the series goes on, or if it completely diverges. So, but yeah, I mean, it was really good, and like I need to pick up the next one and just haven't had a chance to. But yeah, Claire writes amazing book. She has a way of bringing in topics and like putting them into like a fantasy atmosphere that I really appreciate. And like Claire, like I think she might have been a therapist in another life, because like she really can like, she can open up all of her characters, like crack them like an egg. Like she lays it all out.
Yeah, she really gets to the meat of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I really appreciate it, and like she's a phenomenal author, so.
Yeah, and I remember mentioning that with the Beneath Black Sails series, like when those characters were going through stuff, you were sitting there right there with them, and it wasn't like glossing over it. You were sitting with them as they process stuff. And I think, I mean, again, it felt hard to read Kat because there wasn't that happening. It was like every time you felt like she made progress, it was like 2 steps back. Or she'd get thrown into this thing that makes her relive trauma and she's locked up in it. You know, especially having read, like, I was really appreciated even in the arc, that author's note, because it was like, okay, this was intentional, but like, damn, it sucks that Kat is stuck like this. And so my hope is, you know, as the series continues, like, and, you know, again, like, as they have to now work together and as more of that, you know, clearing through that betrayal and deception, as more as hopefully as the communication clears up, that like there's going to be that processing, whether it's together or individually, but like that you'll see that development in terms of the characters. So that's my hope. But yeah, I knew I was going to talk for a while.
That's fine. That's why I have a silly book.
Tell us about it. Let's revisit Ruby Dixon.
To find this book, my goal was to find something that wasn't like the start of a big series. I wanted something that was either part of an anthology or like a standalone or something. And I kept scrolling on Ruby Dixon's website, and she has some like Regency romances. She has some stuff with orcs. But then I found this book, and I saw the title, and it was like, this is the book I have to bring to the podcast. And let me introduce you to The Alien Assassin's Convenient Wife by Ruby Dixon.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yep, good pick.
Right?
I can see why it grabbed your attention.
Yeah. So this book is the story of an alien assassin, part of a duo. He's basically working with his brother, and he has this new contract that he has to do on Earth, specifically in New Mexico. And so they both like both him and his brother have a target, I think, on Earth at this specific time. And they're also both hunting brothers, which they like point out because they think it's funny. Our main character, when I saw his name for the first time, I laughed. Deep Space Nine called, and it wants its name back because our guy's name is Jadzion.
What?
No.
Jadzion.
Stop it.
Like a male
sucks.
version of Jadzia. And I was like, I mean, aliens, I guess.
Sure. But they're aliens. You could give them any name you wanted.
I guess maybe she's a fan of Star Trek. I don't
But
know.
I'm saying,
Literally
in that
any
same
name.
aspect, you can give them literally any name, and Ruby picked that one.
She picked Jadzion, yes. So the book opens with Jadzion on his spaceship, basically communicating through his comms with his brother. And as he's doing so, he's scrolling through like Earth channels or whatever, and he finds porn. Specifically, he finds porn with, I'm guessing, deep throating, because he keeps mentioning girls who are slobbering all over the dicks and stuff. And I'm bringing this up only to say that this is mentioned so many times in the book. Like, he's fixated on that porn that he saw. And this girl never blows him.
Then, like, I feel so bad
sucks.
for him now.
Right? Like, he talks about it. He's like, oh, that's so weird. These humans are slobbering all over the place. And he never gets a blowjob in this book. I'm hoping he gets it later,
That
but like,
sucks.
I was like, wait, I thought Ruby Dixon was setting up something for me here.
I normally don't, like, give a shit if men get oral, but, like, I kind of feel bad. Like, I feel like
I know,
he
right?
deserves it.
Anyway, so Jadzion basically lands on, he talks with his brother. His brother's the grumpy guy. I really want to read his book because, honestly, I'm more interested in him because he's a grumpy guy. And so he talks with his brother, blah, blah, blah. We get, like, the setting of the contract. No one cares. He lands on Earth, and then he goes to try to get his contact, like, the guy that he's supposed to go kill. And so he walks into this building, and to him, like, all Earth buildings look the same. But it turns out that this building is part of a couple's retreat.
What?
And so he cannot enter the couple's retreat alone.
Oh, God.
And he tries to sweet talk the receptionist into letting him go in without a girlfriend. Like, he's like, oh, she's in the car. Like, she's gonna be right in. Like, she to be fair, he doesn't say in the car because he does not know what a car is, but he's like,
he doesn't know what a car is, probably.
she's outside, and then the lady, like, supplies to him, like, parking the car? And he's like, yeah, that. Like, so she's gonna be coming in like any
That
time
thing.
now. Please let me in. And the old lady is like, no, I need both of you to be here because I need you to sign releases and blah, blah, blah. And so our man Jadzion is bummed and he has to leave the couple's retreat. And he kind of goes to chill in the park in this scene that's really funny because you still see it from his point of view. But you hear the moms in the park talking about how he's really creepy being just like sitting in the park with kids around. And he's just like this grown-ass man sitting in a park. And through this, he hears those ladies talk about a dating app. And they're talking about how they managed to find boyfriends or like whatever through this dating app. So he decides to somehow create a profile on this thing, and voila. Chapter 2 starts. We're introduced to our main female character, Jenna. And Jenna is single, and she does not want a relationship. But she updated recently her dating profile to say that she's looking for a marriage. Like, she basically made a joke description on her profile. She was like, let's get married, or whatever. And she kind of abandoned her profile.
About that.
Yeah, no.
There are weirdos who will take
You'll
you
get
at
a
that word.
stage 5 clinger quick.
She thought it would keep people away, but and then she just I think she deleted the app or whatever. But her roommate decided to keep her profile up and basically try to get her a date, try to get Jenna a date. And so one day the roommate goes and says oh, I got you a date, get ready, he's already over there, because that's how this app works, he's already over there at the restaurant. And she's like, what the fuck? She doesn't have a choice, so she goes to the restaurant, and then she meets our guy Jadzion.
I mean, you definitely have a choice, you don't have to go.
She went, and he's the weirdest guy ever. She calls her female. I mean, first red flag, I would have fucking ran out of there immediately.
Oh, I would have literally called the police.
But he's super weird and dodgy, and he doesn't even give neurodivergent vibes. He's just weird. And he makes a good in the first chapter, he makes a lot of comments about how humans are primitive, and it's really important in his line of work that the humans never learn that there's an alien amongst them. Because that could cause a lot of trouble, because humans are not ready for aliens yet. They can't learn that you're an alien. And immediately this guy talks about how he had to park his ship. And then the girl's like, are you a sailor? And he's like, what's that?
Himbo energy.
This guy, you get his point of view. So, he sounds like a pretty smart guy, or at least in his, technologic world, whatever. But as soon as you put him in a human setting, this guy's a fucking dumbass. And, he does not blend into anything. And for some reason, this girl does not, I guess he never makes any, comments about humans to her that are that bad. But from his comments in the first chapter about humans being, basically on a dirt planet that no one cares about, and then him immediately fucking up as soon as he meets one, I'm like, dude, maybe you should, check yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, they talk, and he's weird, and she, I think she tries to run away, she basically, bails from the date, but he catches up to her. And then he has this moment of weakness, because this is a Ruby Dixon book, right? So, this alien species also has true mates.
Well, of course.
Of course it does.
Of course it does.
And his specific alien species goes into heat.
Please tell me the men go into heat too.
Yes, the men go into heat.
Love it.
Amazing.
Specifically, the men go into heat. And so before he left his ship, he explains to her basically that he took something that made him feel that they made him feel dizzy and nauseous, and he's basically losing consciousness slowly. And she thinks he's on drugs, because of course she would think he's on drugs.
Yeah.
But in fact, he only took his I guess hormone suppressant potion, and he took a double dose because he knew he would be near unmated females. And so he really needed the double dose, but that fucked up with him. And so he faints, and she has to bring him in her car. And he kind of tells her oh, I'm in this park over there. And, like, when she gets there, obviously, she doesn't see anything because there's a ship. Like, he has a ship, but it's invisible, right? And so she's like, no, I can't bring you here. That's literally just a park. I'm going to bring her home. So she brings him home.
Oh, I
as
would
a
leave him in
normal
the
person
park.
does. Another red flag girl.
No.
She brings him home, and eventually through a series of events, she realizes that he's an alien. And when he wakes up again, she confronts him, and he tells her literally the truth. He tells her, I'm an assassin. I need to kill this guy. I need to marry someone so I can get into that couple's retreat. From that point on, it's fairly straightforward. They go to the couple's retreat as a couple. The girl knows what she's doing. That guy is basically just in the heat the whole time. He's completely useless. She gives him a handy in the bathroom at the couple's retreat. They go up the elevator and they find what the couple's retreat is about. And it's actually a swingers club.
Hey.
Oh my god.
Oh my
God.
So obviously he gets all possessive and stuff when people like try to hit her up, and she's like, it's fine, it's just like what these people do. Like, he's like super possessive. And eventually they do find the guy that he's come here to kill. I don't remember his name, no one cares.
He's not what we're here for.
I think he's like a doctor at this place or whatever, like a therapist at this couple's retreat. He's just there to fuck, he's a swinger.
We're here for alien sex, not assassins.
Exactly. So far, hand job in the bathroom. That's the only sex you've got. There's people around that are fucking, but our main characters are not. They follow this guy to, like, an abandoned pool, and then they find him fucking in the locker room with two other humans, and they interrupt them, and then our man Jadzion kills him, but in the process, our girl falls down and hits her head, and so she wakes up on the spaceship, and he's using his healing things on her, and then they fuck. There's no blowjob.
Why is it always head trauma?
It's always head trauma.
There's always head trauma.
But yeah, that's basically like, listen, I'm not disappointed.
So that's it?
Yeah, that's it.
I'm disappointed.
I'm not disappointed, but like, I expected more filth.
I feel like someone just edged me.
Yeah,
I know,
exactly.
right?
And there will be no
So
result.
like, they do have sex, but it's basically just vanilla as fuck. I don't remember her blowing him. Maybe he goes down on her, who cares, but like,
I mean, good for him.
why are we talking about blowjobs for so long?
I don't know. I've read like 3 Ice Planet Barbarian books, and like, those things are
They're
raunchy.
filthy. Yeah, they're filthy.
Like, now I feel like I'm going backwards. Like,
Right?
like, this is like a children's book in comparison.
I know,
don't-
right? Like, it felt Christian in comparison.
Yeah, very much so. Ruby, you do better.
Yeah. Apparently, there's this, like, the second book in this duology is written by another author, and apparently, according to Ruby Dixon's author notes, it's much filthier than this. So I'm really curious to read that one, because
that's not saying a lot.
Yeah, because this one, I'm like, I hoped for more. Then again, it's like 124 pages.
When one...
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I don't know.
isn't it really, really short?
But so are Ice Planet Barbarian books.
Yeah, they're not very long.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The first APB book, okay, no, it's 300 pages, never mind.
I thought they were shorter than that. Oh, well.
All right. Well, how does everybody feel about revisiting the authors that we did on our first episode?
I'm really glad that we did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am always... You never have to twist my fucking arm to get me to go back to Katie Roberts'
Oh,
books.
yeah.
Ever.
I didn't really know how I was gonna feel, because when I initially read Bunny, like, I feel like I didn't appreciate what it was, you know? Like, I hadn't really ventured into that kind of writing before, and so I kind of sat with it and didn't know if I liked it or not. But this year, like, I've really tried to read some different stuff, and like, when I went to read Rouge, I was like, this is so kooky and freaky and weird, and I'm obsessed with it, and like,
Yes.
it's like, you know, and you come across this with like authors like this. It's just like Grady Hendrix. Like, they have like extremely low ratings on all of their books because people just like don't get the vibes. You know,
Yeah.
like, you're not here for like a literary masterpiece. It's about the vibes, okay? Like, it's supposed to be weird and uncomfortable. But I don't know. I'm really glad that I was really thinking about reading her other book, All's Well, because it's like Shakespeare inspired. I think I'm going to read that before the end of the year because finishing Rouge is like got me in a mood to like read another weird book. So
I admittedly have had a little bit of a beef, not with Katie Robert personally, but I did get denied for the arc of this book like months and months and months ago. And so I was very, very disappointed. Not in her again, but just I haven't read any of her books in a long time. And I'm really glad that I did read this book for this episode for the last episode because it was just like it hit the right spot.
I definitely like was on a Katie Robert binge for a while, and then I got behind trying to read some other stuff, and like I'm so behind in her Dark Olympus series. There's been like 3 books that have came out since I read them, so. But
she's cranking them out as well.
I know she releases a book like every couple of months. It's insane.
So B, what about you? Were you happy to revisit Clare Sager?
Definitely. I'm really glad I had read the whole Beneath Black Sails series and got to see like the follow through with all those characters before trying to read this.
Yeah, I didn't do that, and so I got spoiled.
I mean there is like it's very interesting because like the cameo with Vice and Nye is definitely the end of their story. Basically, it's basically stuff that comes up in the 4th book of that series, in the 1st book of Cats. So it is one of those like. Yeah, you want to make sure. Apparently, like, all of her books, even in anthologies, are part of this Saberverse, and, like, you will see cameos or references to all of her characters in other books. I really like those kind of Easter eggs, yeah. But I want to know who the fucking fox is from this first book. I'm so, like, it was such a big deal.
Maybe the fox is a cameo.
Maybe.
I think I know who it is. Unless it's someone that wasn't at all in the first book, actually. Anyway,
lady, you said you had a question?
Yeah, I have a quick question for you guys. So, this is episode 26, but as we record this, we've only released 24. And that's, with 2 books in an episode, and 4 books in the first episode, that's 50 books so far. And I want to know, have you read a book that someone else has brought to the podcast so far? I can give you a list, and I'll fast forward it in the editing if you
can jump ahead. Yeah,
I can give you a list. Through Dark Storms, A Worthy Opponent, Bunny, Lawrence Barbarians, The Darkest Part of the Forest, Juniper and Thorns, A Rune of Roses, These Violent Delights, By a Thread, Down Comes the Night, Stalking Jack the Ripper, 10,000 Stitches, Gideon the Ninth, Together We Burn, Perfectly Preventable Deaths, Light Arc, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, Hotel Magnifique, Laertes, The Bees, The X-Talk, Prince of the Sorrows, A Natural History of Dragons, Two Wrongs Make a Right, Stung by the Boogeyman, The Office of Gardens and Ponds, The Adventures of Eminel Seraphy, The West Wind, Always Practice Safe Hex, Listen in Thorns, Wild Spaces, The Things We Do to Our Friends, If We Were Villains, The Whispering Dark, The Latinist, Slayer of the Pirate Lord, Power of the Rose, A Deal with the Elf King, By the Book, The Fine Print, The Heart Principle, The Wishing Game, Final Girls, May Fly, Camp Damascus, A Fragile Enchantment, The Trojan Woman, and Strange a Dreamer.
No, not a one.
The only one that I thought I had read...
I suck.
I read before the episode came out, because I was going to say Down Comes the Night, but I read it before. Yeah. So no, I have not read a single one that someone else brought.
What about you guys?
I think I had, but there were ones that, like, I had read before.
Yeah, that's the only instance for me. Like, I had read it before they brought it.
So I'm the only one?
Which one did you read?
I read Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies.
Oh, yeah.
And I read These Violent Delights. I did read Gideon the Ninth, but I read that before the episode.
Yeah, you'd read that before.
I will say, though, I have Juniper and Thorn lined up next because I just finished A Study in Drowning and it was amazing. So, but yeah, I just feel like I've had so many other things, like...
We just get carried away, and with the podcast and the book club, we, like, don't have time for, like, other books.
Yeah.
Yes, and I've gotten approved for so many good arcs this year.
Yeah, me too.
I just convinced one of my IRL friends to read Gideon the Ninth today. Like, just a few hours ago.
Like, we got him good.
So, but no, I have not read any of the books that we brought.
We're all bad friends
this year. I suck. Bad friend. Lady's the only good friend here. Yep. Lady read 2 books I recommended her, and I read none.
I feel honored that one of the books was mine.
I've definitely read books that y'all have recommended, but I don't know if they've been ones for the podcast.
Y'all have to read The Darkest Part of the Forest.
You do.
It's unbelievable.
You do.
I might read it, like, right before, the next Stolen Air. What is it? A Prisoner's
That's a good
Throne?
idea. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Prisoner's
I'll already
Phone,
be
yeah.
like in a Holly Black mood, you know?
Yes, do it.
Are we ready to close?
Yeah, let's close out our first anniversary episode. Thank you guys so much for a year of this podcast. It's been so much fun to listen to you guys and to listen to like your feedback and any suggestions you have about games that we could play and books that we could discuss. And we've just had a great year. That's the reason we've been doing this, even though there's 20 of you that listen.
Lady made a comment, and I in the Discord the other day, but every time we get a new follower on Tumblr, or I check our Spotify statistics all the time, and every time we get a new subscriber, it's the biggest serotonin boost in the entire. We're at 60 Spotify subscribers.
Really?
Which is insane to me, that there's 60 people who give a shit and want to get notified when we release an episode.
I don't get a lot of followers on my Tumblr, but I don't mind. Every time I get one on the podcast Tumblr, though, that's another story. I get so excited.
Yeah.
I just know we got one this week, and I was like, ooh, hello, new person.
Well, if you've been listening for a whole year and you still haven't followed us anywhere, you can find us at Red in the Dark Pod on Instagram and Tumblr. Our email is redinthedarkpod@gmail.com if you want to ask us a question about any of the books we discuss on this episode. We also have a book club. You can find us at Warm Page Library on Instagram and Tumblr, which will have details on how to join our Discord. Stay tuned for some challenges that will come on Storygraph next year for the Book of the Month options, as well as new challenges, which you'll be able to find in the app and we'll announce at that time. B's book this episode was A Kiss of Iron by Clare Sager. And Lady's book was The Alien's Assassin's Convenient Wife by Ruby Dixon. Other books we talked about this episode were Beneath Black Sails by Clare Sager, The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon, Bunny by Mona Awad, All's Well by Mona Awad, and A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. Keep reading, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye!
Bye.